My name is Fabiano Caruana, and I play chess. Growing up in New York was great. I do love the city. I had a childhood that was mostly like a lot of sports and running around outside and riding bikes with friends and playing sports in like the schoolyard. Then at some point, to my parents' regret, I got my first video game at some point. So then I wanted to play video games all the time, and that's when I started playing chess. I started around the age of between 5 and 6 because I had some problems with like my attention. It was suggested as a way to maybe improve my ability to concentrate and my attention span, and just started playing with kids in an after-school program, and then got noticed by a chess coach there. Then I started playing tournaments. I do like have a very clear memory of my first tournament where I lost all my games on time because I forgot to press the clock. Your opponent doesn't have to tell you to press it, but usually my opponents were much older and probably felt bad for me, would remind me. But eventually I just like would lose on time in all the games. So the first outing wasn't too successful. I really always enjoyed playing. I loved to play, but I didn't enjoy studying too much. That was never something that grabbed my attention. I didn't want to study. I didn't even want to take lessons, although I did. But yeah, playing was like the majority of my enjoyment came from playing. From my teenage years forward, yeah, it was very atypical, not having the social connections that you would normally get going to school, or just having friends that you meet in school and then become friends in other aspects of your life. Yeah, all the other things that are associated with like high school and applying to college, all those things didn't really happen for me. But I think you can't have everything. Of course, it would be nice to experience everything, but if you put all of your time and effort into this one area, trying to get as good as you can at it, then you can't focus so much on other things. It's just the way it is. If I hadn't had this life from an early age, then I probably wouldn't be the chess player I am today. Road to the World Championship started with the candidates in 2018. I had already qualified through a very difficult path to get to the candidates because in 2017, it's already going over a year before the match. In 2017, it wasn't sure at all that I would qualify for the candidates. It was a rating race between Wesley So, Vladimir Kravnik, and myself, and it was very tight. It wasn't at all clear. And also, I got like deathly sick during the 2017 World Cup. I got tonsillitis, then I recovered, and I beat Kramnik in a really, really important game for the rating race. So after I beat him in that game, then kind of my candidate spot was almost locked in. It was probably the tournament which is most dear to me in terms of like competitive pride that I would take in a tournament. That's the biggest one for me. And I qualified for the World Championship against Magnus. It was a close match. Of course, mostly looking back on it, it's like what I could have done better. But it's always hard to say, like I definitely did many things right, and I definitely did some things wrong. It's not even just a psychological thing, it's even a physical thing. It's like when you sit down, you realize that this isn't a normal event. It's not like I have people next to me also playing games. It's just us. And we were in a glass box with about, at the start of the game, like 40 cameras surrounding the table, which of course cleared out as the game progressed, but at the start, it was just like the flash of cameras. Yeah, it was a very strange feeling, and we had a shared rest area. Of course, normally both of us wouldn't be resting at the same time, because if I made a move and I'm resting, then it's his time to play, and he's not going to be in the rest area. It was a very interesting experience, very intense for a long time, psychologically, going, not just during the match, but also going into it. I was really sort of psychologically shaky, like I was just very, very nervous going into it. Still, I think I handled it, psychological part of the nerves, pretty well. My play never like dropped massively. There were some bad moments during the match, of course, some like big mistakes, but it was never like I completely lost control, which can also happen. You can't even criticize someone for that because it's not possible to say like be more psychologically stable. It's something that just happens in the moment and you can't prepare for it, you can't train for it. In the end, it did come down to a tiebreak, and Magnus was objectively going to be the favorite in this match. I mean, our ratings were close at the time, separated by 3 points when we started the match. But yeah, of course, Magnus, everyone was considering him either a slight or a big favorite coming into the match. Somehow it stayed level. We went to tiebreaks, and tiebreak I lost pretty severely. It went wrong from the start, and then it snowballed. And yeah, that's basically the summary of it. Well, I've always had this sort of feeling that like there will always be another chance, but definitely there was part of me that was like, yeah, you just squandered a big chance for sure. So if I look back, I can have some regrets about, yeah, moves that I could have made, different decisions I could have done, or some things which weren't in my control that I feel like maybe I got some bad luck. It's just something. I'm not gonna like say specifically what I mean by that, but like there's always some things that you feel like luck wasn't on your side. Like I don't know if I'll get another chance. I might. I mean, I'll keep trying, of course. There's definitely no guarantee. Yeah, maybe in 2016 when I was like 23 years old at the time of the candidates, I probably thought, okay, there's going to be like millions of chances, and now I realize, of course, there aren't millions of chances. I mean, you might get some, you might get none, right? It's not a guarantee. So that's a bit more of a conscious thought that I have now, that like every chance is pretty important because it might not come again. In the 2020 candidates, it was very strange because it was split up into two parts. Because of COVID, we were in Russia, and at some point they said we're postponing the tournament after 7 rounds. I was playing white against Maxime in the 8th round, and we had no idea what to do against him. And then at that exact moment, while we were preparing, I remember the time, it was like 12:23, and we were preparing for Maxime. Rustam, my coach, he gets a phone call that basically says like, okay, the tournament is getting postponed now, and you're going home. This was like, I forget when the game started, but it was basically like an hour and a half before the game. And then instead I play him a year later. I beat him, mostly because I prepared a line for like months and months and beat him like 90% by preparation. Of course, I wasn't really part of the picture in terms of I was never really close to winning that tournament. It also definitely changed chess history a little bit in terms of Jan playing a world championship match against Magnus. After that, he also played another world championship match. He won the 2022 candidates. This time, there was nothing unusual about the tournament. He just dominated. Halfway through, I was +3 after 7 rounds. Jan was +4. And Magnus was talking about potentially not defending his title. I think basically Magnus said he would consider not defending his title, and he probably wouldn't, unless Alireza wins and qualifies for the match. And then he would probably play Alireza. And to me, it kind of sounded a bit like not very clear. And when the statement wasn't clear, I decided it's better to just assume that he'll play and assume that first place is the only place that matters, which in hindsight was a mistake, but that was my feeling. It would have also really hurt to, like, let's say, shoot for second place. And Magnus is like, well, I really don't want to give it up, and I'll play on for the World Championship. And then my second place doesn't amount to anything. So, of course, in hindsight, it's very easy to say that I made, like, some very rash kind of decisions during the tournament. It's easy to speculate, but the way it did happen, of course, Ding got second, and I ended up becoming world champion. I commentated on the match, which I wasn't sure that I would do, but I ended up doing the last half of the match between Ding and Jan. I commentated on the final moments of Ding becoming world champion, which were kind of surreal. I do remember that I vividly remember this. I had a dream probably around the age of 10 that I would become world champion. It still hasn't obviously materialized, but I would like to achieve that dream at some point. It wasn't like it was like a dream, like I actually dreamt it. And I don't know if it will look anything like it did in the dream, but it would be interesting to see how it would look. I'm playing the 2024 candidates again. This one is a bit different because now the young guys have started to become really strong. So it's a mix of the old guard and the younger generation. But now even Alireza is considered one of the more experienced guys. We have players like Gukash, who I'm not even sure if he's turned 18 yet, and Pragnanta, who I think is 19. And so we have this like young generation, and then we have, I wouldn't consider myself old, but we would be called the old guard, I guess. We'll see how the newer players and also older ones can handle the pressure. Because last year, or 2 years ago, that is, I didn't handle the pressure very well despite having a lot of experience. Still, I wasn't able to manage that. It's not necessarily in a case where experience gives you a huge advantage, because every time is different. And also you change every time. So I'm not the same player I was 2 years ago, or certainly not 8 years ago. And the reason why I think maybe it doesn't make such a huge difference is because in my first candidates, I did have a good performance and I almost won. I think a lot of it is just coming into the event, like how good your form is. You can't always control it. You can do your best, but you don't always know what circumstances will affect it, what will go right, what will go wrong. I think it will be a very hard-fought event, and I'm not expecting something like last time where someone dominated, where Jan dominated. If I had to make one prediction, it'll be that it'll be like very closely contested. I think that I can play well, so I don't have to prove that. It's just that I'm not going to take for granted that I qualified, because it wasn't at all guaranteed that I qualified last time or that I'll qualify next time. I understand fully, I think everyone does, but I understand maybe better because I played so often that it's just how difficult it is to win a tournament like this. Even when everything was going my way in 2018, there were so many ups and downs that I had to overcome. So I know that even if things go well, it's a huge road